the last weekend of August. In fact, today is the last day of August. Where has the summer gone? Or for those of you who are on the other side of the world, thank God winter's almost out of here, even though that may just mean that instead of it being 106, it's only 76. Well, either way, there is definitely some celebration to be had because of these 5 recently released albums that you should definitely check out from this past weekend. So, if you're the type that needs to go back to school, whether it be university or high school or trade school, law school, medical school, here are 5 albums that you can stuff inside your book bag alongside your textbooks and lunchbox in order to really kind of get you through the day. So let's get started. We have, at first, we have Delain with the new album Moonbathers. Now, the cool thing about this project is that it started off with the former keyboardist from Within Temptation, who was sidelined and quit the band based around some medical problems. We started this project with Charlotte Wessels, and it was meant to be sort of this revolving door idea, and they got that with the first couple of albums, but recently, and especially on Moonbathers, we have only one real guest to talk about, and that's Alyssa from Arch Enemy, helping out on the very first cut with some vocals. Now, the keyboards are exceptionally prominent, considering, you know, the creator of this project was a keyboard player. He loves to do that, orchestration, and really the way in which these compositions swirl around are very well tailored for that. And the symphonic metal idea, which is something that he, you know, previously had experience with Within Temptation, works very well with Charlotte's voice. So you have these very ethereal, very, well-placed female vocals that almost make it feel like these guys should be right there within the conversation of groups such as Within Temptation, Within Nightwish, and things of that variety. They really belong, and Moonbathers is an album that certainly proves that strength. I do really like the fact that songs like The Glory and The Scum going into Sucker Punch, they just have enough of a little bit of a different side or different scope of things in order to give each track sort of its individual flair. And I like the fact that some of these guitar leads don't necessarily have to lead to anything over the top in order for a song to still feel captivating and also feel like it has a lot of charm based around itself. Now, the band also does a pretty cool Queen cover of the song Scandal. Scandal is not a track that you immediately think Queen. In fact, if you went right through this, you just think, wow, they decided to try something different. No, they didn't. It's a Queen cover, and it's really, really well handled. I just like the way that this band sort of structures things and how they are able to represent it. The vocals are great, the music behind it is very solid. You should check this one out if this is a side of metal that you dig. Our second observation is a little out there. We have Orphaned and Amaseffer with the Kna'an or the Kna'an, all depending on how you want to pronounce it. This is a collaborative album based off of a play that is written, so this is sort of the soundtrack of that story, of those episodes, and it's centered around a sort of like modern, spin on the stories of how the 3 Abrahamic religions sort of came to be, and some of the different things that came about and went about during that time. Now, you probably know Orphaned, you probably know Amaseffer, really separate, but them together is sort of an interesting beast, considering this is an album that blends some very soft, very, period-centered music that also is then offset by this hardcore, sort of doom-sounding metal that has a combination of just these deep male vocals and then at times some very ethereal female vocals that kind of cascade everything together. The Angel of the Lord, the very second track on this album, has a backbeat that sounds a lot like it's sounding like it's trying to be its own Tool song, which is kind of interesting. Tool would be able to do a magnificent cover of this song, considering it feels like it's right in their stylistic wheelhouse. But as this continues, it's a short one, it's only 38 minutes, you are encountered by a lot of different little interludes and soft little moments that are almost like introductory moments. Either that, or it feels like, if you put it in the terms of a play, these are reflections or different, interpretations of moments that the characters within are having, the ponderances that occur, and some of the events that help to propel the plot forward. But everything is presented in a way that doesn't feel like it's just standard theater. Instead, it has a little bit of that more over-the-top, a little bit more, musical, like heavy metal album-centered idea to it. Almost like a concept album that isn't truly a concept album, considering it's more of a soundtrack. This one is not for everyone, I will say that. If you're going in here expecting the same bliss that you get from one of their solo records, Orphaned or Amaseffer, you're not going to draw that same conclusion after listening to this, but it's a neat idea, and I'd almost like to see the performance with this music in the background, because I think that would be really the true money shot with this one. That would be what would really propel it to sky-high places. But if you are curious, give this one a listen. Plini with Handmade Cities. Now, this guy has been making some waves whenever it comes to the underground market, the instrumental market, because he's a guitar player, an instrumentalist that is making some just really cool albums that are able to blend elements of gent. They're able to really blend elements of progressive music and also jazz fusion. You know, there's just a lot of different sides to this project. And this gentleman is extremely talented, and the reason for that is very well on display within Handmade Cities. Definitely a candidate for one of the better instrumental albums thus far this year, and yeah, we're looking at Jason Richardson as well for that one, because damn was that a magnificent album to behold. But Handmade Cities, Plini's play, it's something is a bit of a marvel, considering at times it has this very chaotic register to it, where he's using sort of the gent style mixed in with that heavy metal in order to deliver an approach that is, you know, aiming to do two things. You know, at first it sounds like it's aiming to impress, but in reality it's just trying to further a narrative and really possess a listener's attention and really make them not want to tear themselves away. But secondly, it also feels very conversational in many ways, considering some of the ebb and flow that you gain through these compositions. Feels like the natural escalation and recession of a voice that you would get within a conversation with somebody, especially if it's something that you're discussing that has a lot of, you know, sort of feeling behind it, a lot of excitement behind it. The shifts that you get on this album definitely take you on emotional journeys as well, with a song such as Here We Are Again being a little bit softer, that maybe causes a little bit more reflection, as opposed to a track such as Cascade or even the opening Electric Sunrise, which gives you a little bit more of a sunny disposition, either that or almost that of sort of trying to get you motivated, you know, trying to get you going, you know. Definitely a lot of positivity that emanates through this project. But I also really dig the fact that a song such as Past Years is, you know, 7.5 minutes and just sort of goes various places with its composition. It's not one that likes to stay static. It's not building toward very, very much. It's instead trying to use the peak and valley formation and then use the collective of all of Plini's collective influences. I know that was a bit redundant, in order to really deliver a piece of magnificence that almost feels like the piece de resistance of this album, even though you still have 2 tracks that follow the 7-track affair after that. Wow, this is really cool. I love this guy's work. It's available over on Bandcamp. He's really getting a bit of a following. He's pretty well respected as well. So if you're looking for something new to maybe jam around to, either that or somebody else to sort of, you know, pay homage to and worship at the throne, check this guy out. Check out Plini with Handmade Cities. Really, really spot-on album. I dug it a lot. Number 4, we have An Autumn for Crippled Children with their album Eternal. Amazingly, this is the band's 6th release, and they've only been around since 2010, so they've dropped something nearly each and every year. These guys are experimental. They also are very prominently seen as part of the Black Gaze movement, so of course we've talked a lot about that thus far this summer. It's apt that we're ending the summer with a release of this variety as well. But what's cool about this that I kind of dig is the drapage of the sort of shoegazing that you get on this album. Definitely feels like there's a little bit of a channeling of The Cure at some locations and giving it this hard metallic edge in order to really saucer that in as part of the influence. The one thing that I'm going to say about this is that the vocals are way, way, way too low on this disc. It's kind of very far back in the overall collective. The music sort of overwashes around you. You sort of get lost within the sea of An Autumn for Crippled Children's overall melodic and, you know, just dreamy aura. But whenever it comes to the vocals, they just sort of come in and they sound like this distant whisper that just sort of hovers in the background. And it sounds like torment is occurring. Like the band themselves was recording this and it was an instrumental project. And meanwhile, one room over in a non-soundproof building, somebody was going through the absolute hell of hells, and that is something that's a bit off-putting. kind of removes part of the aesthetic that Black Gaze has become a little bit more known for, and that's really, there's no sort of beautiful harmony that you get aside from just the music itself. You don't really hear any essence of clean vocals, which is fine, but they're just so low in the mix. It's it becomes a distraction as opposed to a real benefit. And plus, if you examine a lot of their previous work, this feels like it's just merely a continuation. They're not bringing too much new to the fold, except for a parade of 10 new tracks. So this is one that if you like Black Gaze, you may be able to get into this one more than I did. I still wanted to make it aware to you guys that this is released. And if you ended up liking it, tell me why in the comments. Let's move on to our last pick. Our final observation today is Rapid Foray by Running Wild. And Running Wild is somewhat of heavy metal royalty, considering in the 1980s their blend of speed metal and power metal definitely helped to shape some influence for that in the future, especially the power metal side. They have a lot of lyricism that has really kind of shaped with piracy and old school stories and stuff like that. It was like shanties for power metal. It's weird. So they have definitely been influential, but over the past, I'd say, decade or so, they've sort of fallen out of favor of a lot of the community, considering they feel that the riffs and the overall ideas are very dated. There's nothing really new that's being added to this fold. It's instead one that feels a bit tired and should be kind of put out the pasture. And whenever you listen to Rapid Foray, you definitely get a 1980s throwback vibe, but you get that with a lot of bands that were either, you know, around during that time frame, either that or have a real affinity for it. You know, you listen to Iron Maiden, and they've definitely maintained some of their 1980s charms, such as the thump that you hear from Steve Harris, but they have also done some things to push their overall sound forward, and that's where the sort of disconnect comes with Running Wild. That being said, Rapid Foray is not necessarily a piss-poor throwback album. It's instead one that has a lot of solid construction. Some of the solo fills definitely give you that old sense of what speed metal was all about, and some of the lyricism, while at times a bit cheesy, definitely puts a smile on your face. Tracks such as Black Bart is very well constructed, and even the opener, Black Sky's Red Flag, even though it has some of that, you know, real date feeling to it, really just, it's a nice throwback. I don't know why people are afraid of throwback, you know, in 2016. You know, everybody wants to have their eyes toward the future, and I understand that. I just talked about that. But you also have to, with music at least, show some respect for the past. And the fact that Running Wild put this out, it's, you know, it's an okay album. It's not necessarily anything all of that thrilling, but it's certainly one that is still a fun listen. You know, I think people are a little bit too harsh on things at times. Last of the Mohicans is an 11-minute finale on this album that is a real good exercise in melody and rhythm, pretty good guitar work on this one, and I don't know, I have a soft spot for things like this. I thought this was an alright disc, but this is one that I guess, you know, from what the community says, proceed with caution, but I dug it. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, 5 recently released albums that you should definitely check out. A bit of a bumpy ride this week, but we will be back next week to do the same thing again. What are albums that you are excited about? Let me know in the comments below. I'm CoverkillerNation, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.